two survivors. They were right there. They were shot at the same scene, on the same night, outside the same bar where Michael Brown bled out alone across the street. They were found in front of the building. He was found across the street. And in 59 days, not one word from either of them has reached the public record. No names, no conditions, no statement, nothing. And now we have been told, by an anonymous eyewitness who has been closely following this case, that those two people are under witness protection, and that someone with big money and significant influence is actively stalling the entire justice process. Let that sit with you for a second. Witness protection means investigators know who they are. It means they have talked. It means the case is not cold. It is controlled. It means somewhere inside the Detroit Police Department's homicide unit, someone knows exactly what those two survivors saw on the night of February 28, 2026. And for 59 days, that information has not moved. No arrest, no named suspect, no charges filed, no footage released, no public update of any kind. A city with $7 million in gunshot detection technology, a 24-hour surveillance command center, over 1,000 Project Green Light cameras, facial recognition, automated license plate readers, and a ballistic matching database that generated 2,932 investigative leads last year, has said publicly nothing about one of the most high-profile murders this city has seen in years. And someone, according to the people who have been watching this most closely, has enough money and enough reach to keep it that way. Tonight, we follow the tips. All of them. And by the time this video ends, you're going to understand exactly what kind of silence this is and exactly who it serves. Before we go any further, Mystora Crimes exists for exactly this. The case that institutions want to stay quiet. The silence that says more than any press conference. Might be. Brown's 5 children are being kept alive right now by a community GoFundMe because the system that owes them justice has given them nothing. If that infuriates you, subscribe right now. Hit that bell. Like this video so the algorithm keeps his name in front of people who need to see it. The only pressure left in this case is public pressure. You are the public.
Okay, so y'all been missing out. There's a new vibe every Thursday night in Detroit that features $2 lamb chops, some delicious entrees, and some banging ass karaoke. Welcome to Karaoke at the Chop. Hey, they caught me by surprise.
Now let's get into it. Michael Brown, Mike B., was 52 years old. He lost his father when he was 5 years old. His younger brother Myron was 1. His oldest brother was 10. And from that loss, he built 30 years of presence in Detroit, 20 years as a party promoter, 2 decades running a hip-hop showcase called Murder the Mic. And then in 2020, during a pandemic that was closing businesses everywhere, he opened Sloppy Chops on West McNichols, a real steakhouse with ribeyes, tomahawks, and a lamb chop special that people still talk about like a spiritual experience. A year later, he opened Crab Sports Bar at 519 East Jefferson, right across from the Renaissance Center, one of the most animated nightlife destinations in downtown Detroit. He was planning to expand to Atlanta, Houston, and Miami. He was planning a second location on East Jefferson itself, going deeper into the corridor, not retreating, never retreating. He told a journalist who spent weeks trying to secure an interview, "The fact that we are black men competing against some of the biggest seafood and steak houses means something. It pushes us to work harder." That sentence is everything. Because men who build with that kind of determination, who compete where they're not expected to survive, who plant their flag in corridors that other people's money is eyeing, those men do not go quietly. They do not yield when pressure arrives. And Mike B. had every reason to hold exactly where he was. And somebody needed him not to. Now the first tip, look at the big contract he was awarded and who wanted it. Here is what we can verify and what we cannot. Verified. In November 2025, 3 months before Mike B. was killed, Detroit's Downtown Development Authority unanimously approved $75 million in public funding for a $1.6 billion redevelopment of the Renaissance Center and Jefferson Avenue corridor. Bedrock, Dan Gilbert's real estate company, and General Motors, a 6-acre riverfront park, a new pedestrian promenade running directly down Jefferson Avenue to the river, 2 office towers demolished. The Bedrock CEO called it an era of execution. In January 2026, 1 month before Mike B. was shot, GM moved its global headquarters out of the building directly across the street from 519 East Jefferson. The development clock was ticking. The most valuable commercial corridor in Detroit's modern history was activating, and Mike B. was at 519 East Jefferson, with his name on the door, expanding. Community-level information we cannot independently verify, but that people who knew him have said directly in comments and private conversations, is this: he was approached about selling that address and he refused. And the person who shared this publicly said something even more specific, that whoever acquires that property next should be investigated. We present that as what it is, an unverified community claim. But here is what is documented fact. 59 days after his death, no new ownership of 519 East Jefferson has been publicly announced. A billion-dollar development corridor is moving around that address, and nobody in Detroit media has publicly asked what happens to it next. So what is the big contract? Is it a formal city deal we haven't found yet? Is it the implied contract of holding a prime development address that someone else needed cleared? Is it something in his business world? A partnership? A licensing deal? An arrangement that put him in a position where his continued presence was a problem for someone with resources? We don't know. And that is precisely the problem, because the tip was specific enough to mean something, and the silence around it is specific enough to suggest that whatever it points to, the right people already know. Now the second tip: look at the wasted taxes. Figure it out yourself. We figured it out, and it connects directly to the witness protection angle in a way that should make you furious. Detroit paid $7 million for a ShotSpotter, a gunshot detection system covering 31.8 square miles. When the system triggers, officers are dispatched before any 911 call is made. Shell casings are collected. Those casings enter the NEBEAN database within 24 to 48 hours per department protocol. In 2025, that process generated 2,932 investigative leads. The police chief stood before City Council on March 23rd, 23 days after Mike B. was killed, and said publicly, "ShotSpotter tells the truth. It helps us close cases." It has not closed this one, not publicly, not with a single fragment of released information. But here is what makes it worse. For months before Mike B. was shot, Detroit City Council passed a body camera footage ordinance requiring DPD to release all body camera and dashboard footage within 30 days when anyone suffers serious injury requiring hospital treatment. 2 survivors from Mike B.S. shooting were medically treated. That ordinance was legally triggered on February 28th. The 30-day deadline expired March 30th. It is now April 29th. No footage has been released. No statement explaining why. No acknowledgement from DPD that the deadline even passed. The police commissioner who opposed that ordinance called it legalized stonewalling. He was right. And this case is what that stonewalling looks like in real time. Now at the second surveillance contract, Nice Systems, $2.1 million. An Israeli internet monitoring and video surveillance company, also expiring June 30th. Detroit police refuse to say publicly what Nice Systems does in Detroit. $2 million of taxpayer money going to a surveillance company whose function the public is not allowed to know. $9.1 million in surveillance contracts, both expiring June 30th, 62 days from today, both connected to a system that was supposed to solve murders, both producing zero public output in the city's most watched unsolved killing. That is the wasted taxes. Who benefits from a high-profile murder staying publicly unsolved right up until the moment the city votes on whether to spend another $9 million on the systems that were supposed to solve it? Now let's talk about the silence that surrounds this case from every direction simultaneously, because individually each piece of silence can be explained. Together they form something else entirely. The 2 survivors, never publicly identified, 59 days of nothing. If our anonymous tip is correct and they are under witness protection, that silence is not absence of information. It is the presence of controlled information. Someone in the investigation knows what those 2 people saw. That knowledge exists, and it is being managed. The family, Mike B.S. wife, has not made a public statement. His oldest brother, the one who was 10 when their father died, the one who knew Mike B.S. world completely, has said nothing publicly since the day his brother was buried. Myron Brown made one emotional plea in early March and has not appeared publicly since. For explanations exist for sustained family silence in a high-profile murder. Investigators ask them to stay quiet because the case is moving. They know who did it and are afraid to say. Legal or estate matters around the businesses require silence, or someone has communicated to them that speaking publicly is not safe. We cannot know which one is true. What we know is that all four of them have happened before in Detroit. And the combination of family silence plus survivor silence plus investigative silence plus media silence, all simultaneously, for 59 days, is not a coincidence. It is a structure. The media blackout, not one follow-up story in Fox 2, WXYZ, WW Local 4, CBS Detroit, the Detroit Free Press, or the Detroit News since early March. 7 weeks. Every one of those newsrooms covered other crimes, other stories, other Detroit news. Not one journalist published a single follow-up question about who killed one of the city's most prominent black entrepreneurs. That is a choice. Choices have reasons. And the forensic unit that processed the physical evidence from a night Mike B. died, the Crime Scene Services Unit, was cited by Michigan State Workplace Safety Agency MIOSHA for unsafe conditions in April 2026. Former employees described it operating out of a dusty garage, missing a biohazard container. A board of police commissioner was denied access for 2 weeks. The evidence from Schaefer Highway is inside that system, and not one question has been asked publicly about whether the integrity of that evidence chain has been maintained. Every layer of this case has the same structure. Information exists. It is being held. And held is not the same thing as absent. So here is where this case stands today, April 29th, 2026, and the questions that only the people watching this video can answer. 59 days. No named suspect. No footage released. No ballistic match announced publicly. No identified survivors. No family statement. No media follow-up. A 30-day footage deadline that expired a month ago with no acknowledgement. A surveillance system producing zero public output, while its contract renewal vote is 62 days away. A forensic facility cited by the state, while the evidence it holds sits in silence. A development corridor worth $1.6 billion, moving around an address whose owner is dead and whose future ownership nobody is publicly tracking. And 2 tips from people inside the Detroit community who clearly know things, pointing at a contract, pointing at wasted taxes, and now pointing at witness protection, and someone with money and influence making sure justice moves on a schedule that serves their interests rather than Mike B.S. family. Now the questions that belong to you. If those 2 survivors are under witness protection, and our anonymous tip says they are, then the investigation has known from the beginning who is at that scene. So why has no arrest been made in 59 days? What is the obstacle? Is it that the suspect or suspects cannot be arrested without exposing something else? Is it that the case involves someone whose arrest would create a problem that extends beyond a single shooting on Schaefer Highway? Is it? And this is a question your tipster was pointing directly at, that someone with enough money and enough influence has found a way to slow the machinery of justice down to a pace that protects them? What specific contract do you think the first tip is pointing to? Is it the Jefferson Avenue property? Is it something in Mike B.S. business dealings that hasn't been reported publicly? Is it a city or development deal that his presence at 519 East Jefferson was blocking? If you know, say in the comments. If you have heard something in Detroit about this case that hasn't made it into any coverage, say it there. And the wasted taxes. When June 30th comes and the city votes on whether to renew $9.1 million in surveillance contracts, will anyone in that council chamber stand up and ask out loud why the most watched unsolved murder in recent Detroit history produced zero public forensic output from the very systems they are about to renew? Or will the vote happen quietly, the way everything in this case has happened quietly? Mike B. Brown fed his city for 30 years. He built something permanent on the most valuable corridor in Detroit's modern history. He refused to move. He was shot and left dying alone across the street, while 2 survivors were found in front of the building. And 59 days later, the silence around his case is so complete and so structured that the only logical conclusion is that someone designed it that way. Subscribe to Mystora Crimes. Share this video today, especially with anyone in Detroit who is still talking about this case in private, because Mike BS5 children deserve better than a GoFundMe and a city that looked away. The footage exists. The ballistic data exists. The survivor testimony exists, apparently inside a witness protection arrangement. And the answers exist somewhere in this city. The only question is who has decided you don't get to see them yet. For Mike B., for his 5 children, for Detroit,